Hey guys, so this is day number 2 of going live, and I'll tell you that this is just as awkward as it was yesterday. Um, but yesterday I kind of went live and talked to you guys about the fact that I've challenged myself for the next 90 days to 100% follow my inner guidance, what I call universal intelligence. You might call it, like just your intuition or gut feeling, or really what it is your soul. It's really what it is. But regardless of kind of what you call it, what I wanted to talk to you guys about today is what it actually is and how to recognize when you're receiving it. There were quite a few people who had reached out to me kind of asking questions or express some interest, and I know that there's probably a lot who are interested but are going to kind of stay in the background and kind of do it themselves. And this is a personal journey, so I totally understand that. That's like completely fine. But what I wanted to express is what this feels like and kind of what it is and how to know what it is. Now, first of all, again, I want to demystify this. You have experienced this 100 times, or like hundreds of times, thousands of times in your lifetime. The only difference is that you probably maybe didn't have a term to call it, and it's just such a natural part of you going through your day that you didn't really think anything of it. But what I want you to do now is be very deliberate and very intentional with it. Okay, because this is something that is extremely powerful once you are able to cultivate it and really kind of understand and bring it forth whenever you want. Okay, so if you're just kind of starting out and you don't really know what I'm talking about, but it's resonating with you, it sounds interesting to you, then this is going to come when the mind is quiet and when the mind is happy. Okay, so a few common times are, when you're driving. When you're driving and you just kind of start going through something in your head. Maybe you get inspired, maybe you figure something out that was kind of on your mind. Maybe it'll come through when you are on a walk or when you're exercising. I mean, I can tell you that one of the main reasons why I exercise anymore is because I get so many great like inspired nudges, universal intelligence, universal nudges for my client sessions. I've come up with countless hypnotherapy sessions and different ideas when I am exercising, and now I just happen to be that weirdo who has like a pen and paper with me all the time. Luckily, due to COVID in 2020, we now have a home gym, so I'm not like the weirdo going for a run and stopping every 5 minutes to write something down. But nonetheless, that is oftentimes where people will get really great sources of like inspiration and kind of figure things out. So it's important that at those times, just like how I did, that you have like a pen and paper or your cell phone just to kind of record what is coming down, because I can't tell you how many times I have thought I would remember something and I just don't. Okay, and that's me, and that's someone who, like, I know kind of what I'm doing, and I know that this is something that's coming through, and I still can't remember it just because there's a million other things that go on. Or maybe you will just end up kind of getting like a stream of information, and the part that you wanted to remember just is kind of gone at that point. Another time is, when you're relaxing or you're just kind of watching TV. If you are a wine drinker, then, after like a glass or two, just kind of when your conscious mind is able just to kind of settle and relax. But oftentimes it's going to come through when your mind is happy and when your mind is quiet. Okay. But the key is that once you start to recognize this and you can kind of start cultivating and bringing it forward for you, then what you can start doing is asking questions. Okay, so you ask a question, and then at some point you'll get some sort of like inspired action or inspired nudge that will kind of lead you to the desired result or something maybe you hadn't thought of before. And I solve a lot of my problems that way, or not a lot of my problems, but I make a lot of decisions that way, is that I'll just kind of ask the question at this point. A lot of it for me comes forward through meditation. Meditation is amazing, and it's something that I really gravitate to because I enjoy going through guided meditations and being able to visualize something. So I'll visualize something and kind of ask for it, and then I'll get like a visual representation or like an inner knowing. And I can't tell you how many times that's come through, actually. That is how I got the idea to be a hypnotherapist. It's the idea of how Precious Pine Cones came through, which is another company that I own, which has a bunch of like audio recordings and bedtime stories for children, as well as like nighttime affirmations that play through the night for children. So that kind of came through for me. And like I said, doing these lives, I mean, I can't tell you how many things have kind of come through for me, like during meditation. So if you like to meditate, then that is definitely an option. If you don't like to meditate, I do have a YouTube channel, which is Activated Alignment. And I plan on doing like a full video on just a way better, more comfortable way to meditate that doesn't involve awkward sitting positions and, humming chants. But speaking of that, I actually did upload a new meditation. So I like to write meditations. I like to write bedtime stories. I don't know how that came. This is another thing that's just kind of like guided inspiration is, now I can just kind of sit down and write, and, wonderful meditations or bedtime stories or whatever will kind of come through. And a lot of my hypnotherapy sessions come through in that way as well. So I wrote one, it's called The Maze of Clarity, and it's really connecting your higher self with your inner guidance. And you can look at it like, your higher self, or, the part of you that is kind of all-knowing. It sees the big picture. It's not concerned with all the details. It's part of you that's not worried about anything, but it has kind of it knows what's going to happen, sort of, right? It kind of sees the path laid out, and it's that like little voice in your head that's telling you not to worry. Your higher self will communicate with you through your inner guidance. Okay, so that's where a lot of the information is coming from. And so this meditation just kind of acquaints you with understanding where that's coming from, connecting with your higher self, and allowing that information to come through with your inner guidance. So I suggest that you do this meditation in the morning. It's definitely not an evening meditation. It kind of gets you pumped up a little bit. But it is a really great meditation, and, take a listen to it if you like it. Like, I would love to hear your feedback. And so that's how it's going to come through for your inner guidance, right? These little tiny messages are going to come through. And once you start getting good at it, and once you start really being able to understand what it is and be able to recognize it, it'll start coming through during like negative times as well, and like tell you to chill out, sort of, right? Or be able to kind of solve whatever it is that maybe you're grappling with, and you kind of need to be able to figure out. But like I said, once you get an understanding of what this is, you'll recognize that you've had it so many times before. But the idea, again, is to be able to kind of take control of how it comes through, when it comes through, being able to call it through, and being able to know that this is like a very powerful source that is on your side. It's just not something random that kind of comes through at certain times. It is something that you can cultivate and kind of build a relationship with. And I suggest that everybody does that, because it's absolutely amazing when you are in a situation where you can kind of like receive that. And like I said, being able just to ask questions. I'll ask a question before going into a meditation, and maybe I don't get the answer within the meditation, but within like a few days, then I will almost certainly receive some sort of like nudge in the right direction, right? And sometimes it's very obvious, sometimes it's not very obvious. Sometimes you know exactly when it's coming, sometimes you don't. And sometimes it can be little tiny nudges, and sometimes it can be really huge nudges. One example, sorry, I have to switch my arms, is when I was starting my hypnotherapy, or not when I was, around the time that I was starting my hypnotherapy practice, and I was trying to figure out how am I going to do like different like Zoom calls, because like my practice is like completely online basically at the moment. And especially now that I'm doing coaching, I have so many calls with clients, and I need like this private space, and I want it to be nice and comfortable and kind of like high vibe. And I just couldn't figure out where to do this in my house. Like, there was just no great places. And then I remember I was cooking one day. Oh, cooking is a good time when it comes through. Cooking is a good time. I was cooking dinner and, no, what was I? Yeah, no, I was cooking dinner and I kind of just got this like inspiration that one of the storage rooms down in my basement would be like a perfect office. So immediately I go downstairs and I start looking around. I'm like, holy shit, this would be actually like the perfect office. Now the thing is, with inspired nudges or with like universal intelligence, or when your soul speaks to you, whatever you want to end up calling it, is that you got to take action, right? So I think it was like that weekend that I completely ripped everything out, got a coat of paint, the carpet was in great condition, I was able to use that, and within like 3 or 4 days, I had an office and, you know, my hurdle and my challenge was solved, right? So these are just like the little ways that it can kind of come through. The next 90 days, I have completely committed to following universal guidance, not only when it works in my favor, but even like the annoying, uncomfortable things that I would just prefer not to do. You know, maybe something comes through to do and, you know, I'm just like vegging on the couch and I just don't want to. And I'm going to commit to still doing that, right? It doesn't really matter what it's going to do, and I'm really interested to see where this will take me and what it will kind of end up as. One of the most powerful forces we have is the force of momentum, right? Kind of once you start going, all of a sudden things start compounding at such a quick rate and so fast. So I'm very interested to see kind of where this is going to take me. And at the end of the 90 days, which will be beginning of October, which seems so far away, but it's also very sad that that's 90 days away. Kind of see where I'm at and kind of what's changed. So for those of you who have kind of reached out and are down for the journey, then like welcome. I'm super excited to do this with you. And for the rest of you, if this resonates with you and you're just kind of doing a silent in the background, then I am your cheerleader and I'm going to be going live to be able to support you and kind of guide you throughout the way. So thanks so much again for kind of tuning in. Again, my apologies for not saying hi to everyone who jumps in. It's just, I find it very irritating and very distracting to do so. But if you have any questions about something, DM me, and I promise, you know, given a little bit more experience and some time going through this, maybe I will get comfortable and not so distracted if I start paying attention to everything everyone is writing. So thank you again so much, and we will talk soon. Have a good night.